Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Indies Introduced series, where we spotlight debut authors handpicked by booksellers from around the country. In each episode, a bookseller from the Indies Introduced panel will interview the author of a debut title featured in our program.
Hi, I'm Kromeklia Bryant from Solid State Books, and I'm joined today by Haron Davis. They are a New York-born, Tennessee-raised author and fish keeper, currently residing in the outskirts of Kansas City, Missouri. They specialize in horror and fantasy with a little bit of funny thrown in for good measure. In their spare time, they can be found playing video games, daydreaming about epic fish tank builds, and preaching the gospel of BTS. They can be found online at ghdis.me and at MXGEETV on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
How was Children's Institute?
It was a lot less nerve-wracking than I thought it was going to be. I think I didn't have time to be super nervous because it was just kind of like lunch panel signing, like really close together for me, and I didn't really have time to sit and panic. It was really fun. I really liked talking to the other authors. They were really cool. I love New Orleans, so I was just happy to be there. And it was a really good experience, I think, just talking to other authors and booksellers, and it was my first book signing, so that was really neat.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you've got 2 books coming out, but I guess that kind of leads into like my first question, which is you've edited and been in a few anthologies, one of which is out in August, along with The Lonely Below. You have The House Where Death Lives coming out. Is The Lonely Below a theme you've explored in any of your earlier works?
So thank you for mentioning the other anthology. That's edited by my friend Alex, who is awesome, Alex Brown. It's actually coming out the same day, which is
cool. My gosh.
Yeah, I don't really know what to do with that because I didn't expect that. But as far as themes, I don't really think that Eva and her story are like super connected theme wise to my anthology stories. I think the anthology stories are a lot more about, well, I guess in a way they kind of are connected, aren't they? See, I thought that they weren't, but now that I like talk it through, I'm like, oh wait, yeah, they might be connected. But usually I'm writing about kids trying to sort of figure themselves and the world out and like really learn to like trust themselves or have other people trust them. So yeah, I guess that is connected. I don't know why I didn't see that when I was answering the question before, but yeah, that's a pretty big connection.
Okay, well then I think since it sounds like you're trying not to give something away, I'll ask my next question and then maybe you can expound a little bit on the connection.
Right.
I'm gonna go with this one. Family, both found and real, are prominent as well. Do you think your story would be as good if Eva didn't have the support system that she had?
No, I don't. Um, as someone who has a pretty small support system, I mean it's a small system, but it's very like strong. Um, I feel it's super important to have one. And if I didn't have that, I would probably just sit in my room and do nothing all the time and like not really try things. And I feel like Eva is kind of similar. Just because, she feels things really intensely. That's kind of a hallmark of autism. Um, in that if she didn't have anybody to like try and help her navigate those really big feelings, she would probably just not have even attempted to investigate anything. She definitely wouldn't have been trying to make friends with anybody. And I don't think she would have gotten anywhere with what she was doing with her investigation or like even just adapting to the school. I don't think she would have been able to do that without her family or her found family.
Yeah, found family, so important. I feel like, I don't know, I'm in my 50s and I'm finding family, maybe one person at a time, very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to add people to your found family.
It really is.
It really is. And I'm actually realizing that more because, you really have to trust the
Mm-hmm.
other people that they're uh there for the right reasons and that they're there to help you. And I really noticed that Eva was really putting herself out there. Like she was like, I'm in this situation, it's new, I'm scared, but I need help. And she put forth a lot of effort. I thought it
Yeah,
was
and that's like it's difficult to really maintain connections when you're autistic,
Mhm.
but sometimes it can be super easy to like make them depending on how you grew up or like what level support needs you have. Like I would be considered level 1 autistic, which means I don't need like as much support. Um, and I have, pretty okay-ish social skills. And Eva is probably a little bit better at that than I am. She has more difficulties in other ways, but with like people, she's used to kind of like talking to them a lot and like she's used to her sister, so she's got those connections. So for her, it's really easy to just sort of like look at people and say, okay, I want to be your friend and I'm going to work towards that goal. And that's also something that I did when I was her age. Like, one of my very best friends in middle school and high school, and like we still talk, which is cool. Um, who also found out she's autistic recently, which is cool. We became friends because I saw her in my classes and I was like, we're gonna be friends now. And like I said it like that matter of factly, and she was just like, oh, okay, cool, that works. And like that's something I think is sort of common with autistic people. If they see somebody that they think that they're interested in, befriending, they'll just be
Mhm.
like, yeah, we're friends now.
Yes, I have a staffer that is autistic, and she has told me that we are now friends forever. And even if I get mad at her, she's going to be like, "Is your mom still mad at me?"
Yeah, see,
I was
you've
like,
been,
"Okay."
yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Oh my goodness. Um, Empathy and understanding is a theme that also runs throughout The Lonely Below. Can you speak to why it was important to the plot?
I think it was important because it's important in terms of like living as a human, really. I feel like we all need a lot more empathy and understanding. Some of us maybe more than others, but it's just such a human thing. And I especially wanted to make sure that it was clear that autistic people have empathy, we have understanding. It just might be difficult to translate that into words or actions that allistic people, non-autistic people might be able to pick up on. So I really wanted to make sure that Eva was a pretty empathetic person and that it was clear that that's not some sort of fluke just because she's autistic. Like she's autistic and empathetic. Like, no, she's autistic and she's, just a human with empathy. Um,
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that everybody's like Elon Musk. He
Yeah.
seems very unemotional, not in tune with his feelings at
Hmm.
all, no filter.
I
And I think that sometimes the representation of neurodiverse people in media or books is very limited. And I was really glad that Eva was very empathetic and understanding. And I liked that Theo, who had a brother who was neurodiverse, was empathetic, but she struggled with the bullying part. Like her friends were bullies, and she wasn't really kind of stepping up, which is probably due to peer pressure, I'm gonna guess.
hmm Yeah.
But she finally she finally comes around and shows that she can, be empathetic and understanding regardless of what other people think.
Yeah. Theo is frustrating sometimes because it's like you could have just, been a nice person without being like, oh, she's autistic. I have to be nice to her. But,
Right.
a lot of people are like that, where it's like, oh, you're autistic. Oh, I guess I'll stop being a jerk to you now. And it's like, you could have just not been a jerk. Like, that would be ideal.
Yeah, humans. Something else that I noticed that I thought was really interesting with this, why weren't there any boys in Eva's friend group?
I thought that was a really good question. And so initially the story was going to be set in an all girls school, and the teachers were all nuns. And so yeah, it
That
was
would have been different for
I
sure.
know, right? And like I kind of like that, but then it was like, that's a little weird. So let's change it so that's not, potentially offensive to random Catholic people. And so when I went through doing those changes, I was like, I kind of like the fact that her friends are all well, not all female, but there's
Right.
not any like boys. And that's something that I think is sort of similar to me again, in that she's used to, not boys. Like her family is, her mom, her sister, and then her dad. And she doesn't really know a lot of like extended family because they move around a lot. So she doesn't have any other really frames of reference for that. And so when she gets to the school, she immediately latches on to V because V looks cool. And she's like, well, I have to make this person my friend. And then V shows up with Ami, and Ami is like the coolest. So now Eva has this mission to befriend both of them. And she's so stuck on that mission that she doesn't even like notice that there are other humans. And the only reason that she notices the other group of girls is because they're picking on her, and like she kind of has to notice them. But like if it were up to her, it would literally just be V and Ami. Um, like I don't think she even knows anybody else's names. Like that's how focused she is on trying to befriend V and Ami. But yeah, it's difficult to sort of expand that range of interest when you're so focused on just like the initial people that you decided that are going to be your friends. And so she's kind of stuck there. But I feel like now that everything is a little bit less up in the air about whether or not they're her friends, she'll be able to focus on like branching out a little bit and talking to like boys or like non-binary kids other than Ami, and like actually make other friends.
Yeah, there's that one friend, Mac, that she has. That's an interesting relationship. Um, that she seems like she kind of struggles to understand. It's so hard not to give stuff away.
I know.
All my questions are all about what actually happens in the book. I am struggling so hard. I want to know stuff.
We'll figure it out after this.
I don't think there's any other questions. You answered all of the questions that I have. I really, really loved your book so much.
Thank
It was
you.
so great. And I really like it for the age group that you developed it for, because I don't think there's a lot of horror
Hmm.
that age out there.
Yeah,
So
which is a shame because
I
like that's
know.
that's literally why I write. Like when I was a kid, I had R.L. Stein and like Christopher Pike, who was technically for older people, but I read it anyway. Like I used to do art, like I sketched a lot. And then like I had a teacher who was like, because I love to read so much and I was always reading like Goosebumps books. She was like, maybe you'll write that someday. And for some reason it did not occur to me that, you know, regular random humans could write things. So I was like, wait, I can do that? So like I put down my sketch pencils and I started writing instead. So like I'm literally doing this because of, horror writers for, middle age. Oh God, middle grade. Um I am middle age now, which is something. But for like middle grade audiences. So I kind of wanted to toss my hat into the ring of middle grade horror.
Keep writing middle grade, please. Middle grade horror. I read a lot of fantasy, middle grade, but I haven't, this is actually my first middle grade horror, so I'm excited. I'm excited for you to write more middle grade horror.
Thank you. I have some ideas that I want to pitch to the same editor because I love her and I have decided that we're friends forever now. um so hopefully I get to write more.
Well, we'll be on the lookout. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Look forward to hearing more from you soon.
Yay. Bye
Yay.
everybody.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!